Questions may you wish to ask His Excellency about the lies they are repeating in the media about Qasr and Basra and Mosul and so on. But first I'll continue. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the people who were targeted by criminal George Bush and his gang and his mercenaries in Kuwait and in the Gulf. They said, we have targeted military places. These are the military places. We will provide you also with the videotapes, as I have mentioned. This is the way they are operating. This is the real targets of those villains in Washington and in London. أخواتي وأخواني هاي الصور للميديا العربية بوسائل الإعلام العربية. هذه ليست كل الصور. السيد وزير الداخلية سيتحدث لكم عن تفاصيل.
The Interior Minister will give you more details. These are some of the pictures which we tried to visit at the hospital. 37 injured yesterday. Here they
ويقول رئيس عصابة الأوغاد الدوليين
the gangster
George Bush
says
وعصابته من الجنرالات الخائنين.
Bill Hemmer standing by in Kuwait City with where some sirens are also airing at this hour. Bill?
Yeah, hey Anderson, 2 minutes ago they went off again in downtown Kuwait City. This is the signal that says danger is here. A series of air raid sirens over the past 24 hours. It's the second time since the sun has come up today that we've heard this call here. In addition to that, you might be able to hear the hotel fire alarm. We have tried to work some sort of synchronicity within the hotel to allow any of our CNN colleagues and workers here in the hotel to know that when the air raid sirens go off in town, you'll hear this fire alarm in the hotel as well. A number of our colleagues at this point, some of them sleeping right now after very long shifts overnight, take cover in the parking garage downstairs. Oftentimes we make our own decisions based on the information we have to assess what we have and decide for ourselves whether or not we believe now is the time to get off the air and take cover. I want to take you back to yesterday, though, Anderson, though. The information we're getting about these missiles coming in from the north are described to us now as Chinese-made missiles. We'll talk a little more about those. Silkworm missiles, we're told. It's important information. I'll try and describe a little more for that a little later.
This is Anderson. Bill, I'm sorry. This is
now to go back to you, Anderson.
Yeah, let's go. We're going to go back to the press conference live in Baghdad.
President Saddam Hussein. They targeted and they, for God had protected them, they targeted the houses of his family. But they are safe. They are safe. This is again, this is the level. This is the real reputation of this gang. This is the real level and reputation of those villains. You consider them superpowers? Well, this is disgrace, really. This is a complete disgrace. They are a superpower of villains, really. They are a superpower of Al Capone. This is the typical American official. Al Capone Israeli, he is the typical official American in our days. This villain in the White House, this is the level of his attacks in Iraq. Well, we are not going to give him the chance or to other villains around him. We will continue capturing his villains, his mercenaries, and he will face the tragedy. يوم أمس بالنسبة للإعلام العربي نحن أذعنا بيان قلنا فيه أنهم استهدفوا هؤلاء الخاسئون هؤلاء عصابة الأوغاد الدوليين استهدفوا
gangsters and cowards
مسكن عائلة السيد الرئيس قائد
targeted
صدام حسين
the residence of
ويحاولون
President
أن يوحوا
Saddam Hussein and
بأنه
his
يعني
family.
هم دا يقومون بعمل
They tried
يعني
to
مثل ما يعلنون
suggest
تافهين
that
طلعوا يبحثون
they
عن يقتلوا
targeted him
يختالوا
personally.
لأنهم يردون
The
أن يغزون العراق
Motive is to
فتورطوا
assassinate the
نحن لن-
president so they could invade Iraq. We will not let them get
ندخلهم
out of the.
عصابة الأوغاد الدوليين سيرون نهايتهم بسبب تجرؤهم
They
على
will
العدوان
see,
على العراق.
they will get their
النقطة
end
الثانية،
by their aggression against
لأنهم
Iraq.
عصابة أوغاد دوليين
Those
أعلنوا أنه صادروا
cowards
الممتلكات
and
العراقية
villains, they declared that they've confiscated Iraqi property and
حسناً، أنا لا
assets.
أستغرب.
I'm not
يعني
surprised.
ماذا نستغرب من عصابة؟
I'm not surprised. This is action of a gang.
العالم الآن أصبح مقتنع.
I think the world now
كثير منهم مقتنعين من
believes and convinced what kind of people we are dealing with. These are outlaws
حاولوا أن يلقون ويرمون هذه الصفات على الآخرين.
trying to accuse the others. They're in desperation, they accuse the others, and it shows how desperate they are and how they're losing their nerve, and that explains their behavior. So stealing Iraqi assets in banks, either in the United States or elsewhere, it's either old assets when we were dealing with in dollars. The Iraqi authorities will respond to that the way they know best. But I would like to say that Iraq reserves the legal right to take the necessary measures to deal with this. And you will see, and we will show those villains how their action will backfire on them. My second point that I would like to emphasize, they say that forces have entered Iraq. I will not say much about this because my colleague here will tell you more about it. I will say the point I told you before. I'll repeat it again. We are faced with a big question. How can we deal with these mercenaries? They're not soldiers. They do not come under international law. What are we going to do to them? I think they will be treated as mercenaries and war criminals. The question is, God willing, and it will be clear, will they be tried before Iraqi war criminals? We will decide. We are studying this now, but certainly they don't come under international law. Yesterday, the Attorney General in the American administration tried to suggest that their aggression against Iraq comes under international law, which is not true. He is deluding himself. They don't come under international law. And our study will show how and prove how we are going to treat them and what kind of law do they come under. There are mercenaries and war criminals, and legal, the international law that could be applied to them, it will be clarified very soon. Before I ask my colleague, the Interior Minister, to brief you,
Okay, we're going to break away from that Iraqi news conference. You are hearing from Mohammed al-Sahaf, who is the Iraqi information minister. Perhaps the most important thing he said was Saddam is safe. Of course, we didn't see Saddam in person, so we don't know about that. What you're looking at right now is southern Iraq in the desert from the 7th Cavalry. Our Walter Rogers is traveling with the 7th Cavalry as they head onwards towards Baghdad. Right now, though, we want to go to Martin Savage. Now, this is the first time we've heard from Martin in 4 days. He's with a Marine unit. We can't tell you exactly where he is, but you too, Martin, are somewhere in southern Iraq.
That's right. We crossed the border about an hour ago into southern Iraq. We passed through the first town, which would be of Safwan. As we came into the town, there weren't a lot of people out, but there were people there that you could see on the streets. They were waving at the convoy of military vehicles as they were passing through. Some of them were giving It's part of the Marine Division inside our own vehicle, and we were trying to move our way to another objective, which we're not going to get into at this point. Last night we were supposed to move in, but due to heavy opposition that was seen along the border, we couldn't push in. Heavy artillery as well as a massive aerial bombardment was brought down on the opposing forces of the Iraqis, and once the situation was deemed clear, we were able to push in, which is what we're doing now. You can see, if you look just over here, security is still extremely tight. It is very tense here. There are still opposition military units in the area, which is of great concern. And of course, they are worried about Iraqi military units that are still operating in this area. But you are looking at the Marines here from the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, as they push their way farther into southern Iraq. Back to you.
Martin, I hope your transmission stays clear because I have a couple of questions for you. You said as the Marines went by, people were waving at them. Can you get into more of that for us?
Well, it was really not clear what the reception was going to be from the population here, especially since last night the fighting that occurred up around the border was very heavy at times, and it was feared that the reaction of the local populace may not be in a positive way. But once the initial forces pushed into Safwan, which is the first town that they would clear, having crossed the Kuwaiti-Iraq border, it became quite evident that the people, if not relieved, were at least not angry at seeing the military forces. There were white flags that were hanging from homes and from buildings. There were people that came out on the streets. Many of them have been warned, though, to stay indoors, not to go outside, not to approach U.S. forces. This is a precautionary measure as much for the U.S. military and coalition forces as it is also for the people themselves.
Another question
now, the convoy is beginning to move. We're going to try and move with them. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Martin. Another question I had, you said heavy opposition. That brings to mind casualties. Can you talk about that at all?
We have not heard any reports of casualties. Last night, as we moved into the area where we had been holding back with other military units with the Marines for about 2 days, as we started moving out, there had been an unconfirmed report of 180, perhaps 200 Iraqi tanks.
We're having technical difficulties, as you can see. We're going to see if the signal clears up. As you might imagine, it's difficult to get a clear signal from so far away from the United States. Martin, can you speak for us again to see if your signal has cleared up?
I was saying that last night, as we began to move into southern Iraq, there was a report of at least 180, maybe 200 Iraqi tanks that were coming from the north, heading south to the border. It looked like it was going to be a major confrontation. That's what forced our convoy to come to a stop and pause for about 5, maybe 8 hours. We had to dig in because there were continued threats of Scud attacks. There were also chemical warnings. We were constantly donning, then taking off the chemical gear, putting back on the gas mask, diving into foxholes, getting out of foxholes. There was a great deal of heavy firing going on. Much of it, though, was outgoing fire coming from U.S. and coalition forces. Heavy artillery, 155 millimeter howitzers, an incredible pounding that was delivered to Safwan Hill, which is a major outpost for the Iraqi military that overlooks all of northern Kuwait. That was devastated last night in air attack after air attack, and any ground forces that were seen on the part of the Iraqi military were attacked and engaged. It was said to be a target-rich environment, and the attacks went on throughout the night. Flashes of light nearly constant, the rolling thunder of heavy artillery as well as bombardment coming from the air, and it continued into the daylight hours today. Once it settled down, that's when our military column began to move, and that's when we finally pushed into southern Iraq. As of right now, we have not met any hostile forces, but we are continuing to push on. Forces remain on a very high alert.
And Martin, one more question for you. This is not a traditional type mission for the Marines. Usually they go into enemy territory by sea. This time they went in by land, and by all accounts, everything went smoothly.
It did indeed. It has gone smoothly. As they always say, the first casualty in any military operation is the plan. Things perhaps did not start initially as was planned, but they have quickly adapted, brought in the heavy firepower, brought in the air wing of the Marines, and were able to suppress whatever Iraqi opposition they met. And now they have regrouped and are pushing on, and things are moving as well to schedule as they can possibly make them. There are other objectives that need to be reached, and time is very critical here. One of the things we did note is that there is such a flood of coalition military armor coming into southern Iraq that at times the highway is jammed like rush hour in downtown Atlanta, bumper to bumper military vehicles moving along the highways of southern Iraq. It is an impressive force to see moving in.
Definitely so. Martin Savage reporting live from somewhere in southern Iraq near the city of Saffron. And the picture you were seeing beside Martin was from the 7th Cavalry in southern Iraq also.
Very
with Walter Rogers. Go ahead.
Quick programming note. 7 a.m. we are expecting statements from French President Jacques Chirac. CNN will attempt to bring that to you live. 7:30 a.m. we expect to hear from Tony Blair, Britain's Prime Minister. We will bring that to you live as well. Let's go to Christian Amanpour now live in northern Kuwait. Christian.
Anderson, well, interesting listening to Marty talking about being in Safwan, which is where they took the surrender at the end of the Gulf War from the Iraqis. From our vantage point, we're at the divisional field headquarters of the British forces. They have already launched across the border overnight, and they have already secured the Four Peninsula, which is Iraq's main oil pumping terminal. They are also now going with other forces into Qasr, which is Iraq's biggest commercial point. This is something which the bulk of the force taking Qasr, U.S. They're the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, and they have encountered some resistance as they try to take Qasr. But we're being told that it is going well, that they are proceeding, but they have taken more resistance than they expected. They have also taken the surrender, we're told, or at least the capture of some 250 Iraqi soldiers. Now, another U.S. operation, U.S. Marines overnight launched in towards the Rumaila oil fields. That, of course, a very important economic objective for all the reasons we've been talking about for so long, to keep those oil fields intact, not just to cause environmental stability, but to protect Iraq's national resources. And that also was one of the reasons why they went to get the Four Peninsula, which is Iraq's main oil pumping terminal. So all in all, we're being told the objectives are being secured. It's going pretty well, and the objective right now that they're trying to secure is Qasr, Iraq's biggest commercial point, and they need it for bringing in all sorts of provisions, humanitarian provisions and civilian provisions as they go along. Back to you, Carol and Anderson.
All right, Christian Amanpour live in northern Kuwait. Thanks very much. We're going to go now to Bill Hemmer, who is in Kuwait City, for some new information. Bill?
Anderson, listen, for the folks just waking up on the U.S. side of this Iraqi war right now, you're going to find some fascinating pictures and images on CNN throughout the day today. Our journalists embedded with these various units, like Marty Savage, that you just heard from with the U.S. Marines, Walter Rogers right now has been traveling for hours now. 3rd Infantry Division, 7th Cavalry, working their way up through the southern portion of Iraq. The images that Walter has given us have just been absolutely incredible. The information we're getting on the inside comes in large part based on our journalists embedded with the military. Walter right now joins us live as they continue to move at what appears to be a pretty firm clip right now. Bradley fighting vehicles, maybe 40 miles an hour through the desert. Walter, what's your situation now?
Bill, imagine for a moment a giant wave of steel sweeping across the southern Iraqi desert, and imagine that almost hourly that wave grows in strength and numbers. As we ride through this desert, we can see that the 3rd Infantry Division's heavy mechanized units have moved up. This giant wave of steel that grows every hour is ever pushing northward, ever pushing toward the Iraqi capital. Its total goal is obviously to intimidate the Iraqis and pressure them, and if that doesn't work, then they can smash the Iraqi regime. So powerful is this force which is building out here in the desert. It is bold, it is audacious, it is fast, and it is traveling far. The policy of these armored units, the 7th Cavalry with whom I'm with now, and the 3rd Infantry Division, a heavy mechanized division, is if there is a demonstrably hostile force out there, then the army is going to kill them. Their goal is to find the enemy, grab him by the nose, they say, and this according to one senior officer. After grabbing him by the nose, we don't let the Iraqis go anywhere. The 7th Cavalry's mission is to find the Iraqis and to persuade them to give up, and if the Iraqis don't give up, then they will be pounded, according to the officers we're traveling with. Bill?
Walter, there was a concern prior to this conflict beginning that the rate of speed would be so fast that you would actually outrun your fuel supply to the rear. Is that still a concern right now where you are?
That's a negative, Bill. We had a ROM about an hour or so back. A ROM is a military acronym for Refuel on the Move. There was a massive fleet of tanker trucks that brought up new fuel for the tanks, the armored vehicles, and so forth. Every one of these vehicles has been refueled. They can punch forward for another 8 hours now, non-stop, and that appears to be what they intend on doing. They are looking out, they're reaching out, trying to find Iraqi units who might be here in southern Iraq. That is their goal, and now they've been joined very closely by the 3rd Infantry Division, and they have hundreds and hundreds of tanks. So you see this giant wave of steel just rolling across the desert toward Baghdad. Again, it's difficult to show how many tanks are out here because of the clouds of dust that each of these armored vehicles kicks up. And the desert has a horizon of maybe 2 kilometers, a mile and a half. But you drive up to the ridge and there, you look beyond that, and there are even more tanks in almost every direction. So it is, as one officer said to us, a bold, audacious, fast, and far-reaching armored movement, all headed towards Baghdad. Bill?
Walter, also the other concern was you mentioned the dust in the desert there, clogging the air filters and actually at some points possibly stopping these vehicles from going forward. How have they dealt with that right now? What's the system they're using, and how much of a problem has that been?
Well, there's regular service and maintenance on these vehicles. It has not been a problem at this point. There has been no, we haven't seen any of the tanks fall out. Indeed, they are all rolling forward as fast as they can. You did raise a good point when you said that it's possible that the armored units of the 3rd Squadron 7th Cavalry do outrace their fuel tanks, but they are taking territory while they are outracing the fuel tankers, and then when the cavalry stops, the tankers catch up, and then they do the refueling. That has given the 3rd Infantry Division, the heavy mechanized division, an opportunity to move up as well. That's why why I use that analogy of a growing giant wave of steel, which, as I say, grows hourly and is coming like a giant wave moving northward towards the Iraqi capital. Bill?
Yeah, Walter, you're traveling with a photographer, Charlie Miller. On a technical side, I'm just fascinated how you're able to give us these images. Can you give us a basic 101 course about how you're able to do it right now, moving the way you are?
Sure, Bill. It's easy. We have two means of transmitting images. One on the roll, which is on a video phone, and we were very, very fortunate. We knew we wanted this particular embed, the 7th Cavalry, because we knew they were the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear. And what Charlie is doing is holding a small minicam out the window, bracing it as best he can on the car frame, which accounts for some of the jiggling in the picture. But even those 68-ton, 69-ton Abrams tanks are bouncing along, not as much as we are, but there's not a perfect smooth ride out here. Charlie's riding out the passenger side window in the front. Jeff Barwise, our engineer, is making all the pictures fly through the air. He does magic, and he's out of CNN Atlanta, and between the two of them, their pictures are what they're bringing these images to you as we roll through the desert. It's a total CNN team, and these are very exclusive pictures. Bill?
Yeah. Walter, another point here. The British are saying earlier today that they might be in Baghdad within 3 to 4 days. I know logistics and your geography, we cannot be specific, but are you hearing a similar thing, that it may come in 3 or 4 days, or quite possibly sooner than that, given your rate of speed?
That's an excellent question, Bill, and it really depends on whether the regime in Baghdad, Saddam Hussein's government, collapses. If that regime collapses, then it's entirely possible that these armored units could be in Baghdad in 2 to 3 or 4 days. That really all depends on whether the Iraqi units, like the Republican Guard, they're better armored units, decide to make a stand south of Baghdad. My guess is the British are coming in from the east-southeast. These units that we're with are approaching more directly from the south, and they will be slamming in. Now, whether the British and the United States coordinate, which you think they would do, but there is a rush to Baghdad underway as we speak. I rather hope it doesn't turn into an Anglo-American race to see who gets there first, because that might be militarily reckless. But it really depends on what sort of resistance the Iraqi army throws up as any army approaches, whether it's the British army or the U.S. army. It really depends on what sort of resistance the Iraqis throw up. But the Iraqis have some very fine military units south of Baghdad. The famous Medina division, which earned its stripes very honorably in the last Gulf War, and then to the west of that is the Hammurabi division. These are crack Republican Guard divisions, and inside backing them up are the Special Republican Guard units in the city itself. So no one should have any illusions that this is going to be a cakewalk. The U.S. Army believes, and particularly the commander of the 7th Cavalry, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Farrell, said he is expecting the Iraqis to put up a fight, and a very stiff fight. Everything you read suggests the Iraqis are not likely to roll over and play dead, even in the face of this huge armored force moving in their direction, unless, of course, there's a regime collapse or a regime change in Baghdad. Then it will be a race for Baghdad, and if the regime of Saddam Hussein does collapse, then these units will probably switch to a different contingency plan. Indeed, we believe they're going to switch to a different contingency plan, and it will be a race to Baghdad just to try to stabilize the situation here in Iraq, given the various ethnic rivalries. Bill?
Absolutely phenomenal coverage. Walter Rogers again moving his way through southern Iraq. We are told that Walter, along with his team of Charlie and Jeff, These guys are advancing further with this scouting unit than any other embedded journalist team throughout this conflict. And clearly you can see right now the advantage of having journalists with their units right now moving through Iraq. It is a tremendous source of information for us here at CNN. Couple more important points I want to pass along to you. Kuwaiti government now confirming with CNN the last air raid siren we heard, which went off about 25 minutes ago, 1:04 local time in the afternoon. The first indication we're getting right now that this was a Scud missile fired into Kuwait. We're also told that it was knocked out of the sky by a Patriot missile battery. The reason I mention a Scud for the first time is because prior to this time there's been some confusion, but we're told it's a different type of Iraqi arsenal missile, ones that travel with much less range. The Scud, however, has much greater distance if you go back to the Persian Gulf War of 1991. One other point I want to make quickly now, we're talking about these oil fires in Iraq. I want to read to you the latest information CNN has right now. Quickly, just want to get to it. I know I got to back to Atlanta. We're told now that 4 oil refineries set on fire in southern Iraq earlier today. U.S. Marines have brought 2 of the fires under control right now. They're traveling with this specially trained firefighters groups called oil capping teams. They're responding right now. They're working on putting out a 3rd right now. It's said to be under control but not extinguished yet. So that leaves 1 more of the 4 still remaining. It might explain, Anderson and Carol, why we see the lifting of the darkening skies behind us here in Kuwait City. Quite possibly they're being very effective in extinguishing these fires, which may eliminate and lessen the smoke we're seeing here. More when we get it. Back to you now at the CNN Center.
All right, Bill, thanks very much. And we're going to stay with those pictures of Walter Rogers on the side of our screen. And Walter, if you're still listening, we want you to stand by because we're going to come back to you shortly. Should point out, and we want to put those pictures up from the 7th Cavalry, put them back on the screen. The man commanding those tanks and those Bradley vehicles is Army Captain Clay Lyle. Now, we spoke by phone with his wife as she watched her husband lead the charge across the desert on CNN.
I'm proud of 37 Cav and 3rd Infantry Division, and I just can't believe that we're able to see this on TV. This is great.
This is great. Stephanie Lyle will be on American Morning coming up with Paula Zahn in about an hour and a half at the 7 a.m. hour. We're going to continue to check in with Walter Rogers also as the tanks and the Bradley vehicles continue pushing closer to their target, Baghdad. Carol?
Right now, though, Anderson, we want to check in with Ryan Chilcote, who is with the 101st Airborne Division, 3rd Brigade. He's in the Kuwaiti desert, and you've been in a bunker for an hour now. Are you halfway out?
Well, we're in actually what's called an assembly area. I've been here since yesterday. This is where the 101st up till this point was in, we're in camps. They've moved out, at least some elements of the 101st Airborne have moved out into this assembly area, and they are poised here to move into Iraq should they get the word. With us today, we have PFC Frank Caruso. Why don't you describe where we are and why we are where we are right now in these defensive positions?
Well, right now we're just maintaining a defensive posture in case something was to happen, like a Scud attack. We've dug hasties, fighting positions in for cover from any type of attack from a Scud or anything else that would happen.
Can you show me like your hasty here and what sort of goes into making a hasty?
Yep. All we do is grab our E-tool and we
That's all right.
go ahead and get our sectors of fire pretty much. The whole squad lines up and we assign sectors in which you fire, and then you start digging in. It's just a real quick method of getting some extra protection if you had to hurry up and fight somebody just attacking you.
Sure. And we've been under Scud alert here for what, just about 2 hours.
Right.
Describe what your day has been like. It's just 1:45 now here. Since this morning, what's your day been like?
Since today, we just been getting ready, prepared, checking equipment, getting things straight on the trucks, and just doing weapons maintenance and pretty much waiting around, waiting for the word.
The first sounding of the Scud alert about 2 hours ago, what was going through your head? What was that like?
Well, we just do what we usually do, get down and, you know, go ahead and put your pro mask on and get ready and, you know, just wait to see what happens.
It's almost kind of like habit forming at this point, isn't it? We went through this yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, do you feel like this is becoming a habit, or?
It is, and at the same time it's good because the more you practice, the more, you know, the quicker you get with this, so it's only going to save your life eventually.
Let's see what else. you have changed clothing, changed your gear. Why don't you tell us about what you're in now and why?
Right now we're in MOPP 1, which is MOPP. It's an acronym for Mission-Oriented Protective Posture, and it's just our protective overgarment, which is boots, trousers and a top, and it's just to protect us from like any kind of chemical attack. And our pro mask is just worn. We pop that on later on if we need to.
Just to explain to people, these are basically the chemical suits that we've heard so much about. Very hot, obviously in the dead of summer.
Ryan, may I interrupt you? Ryan, may I interrupt you? Ryan, I want Ryan Chilcote to stand by because we have some important breaking news to tell you about right now. Anderson?
Sorry, we're getting a report from our Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who is also embedded. We're going to go to him live. Not sure exactly where he is. Let's just check in with him. Dr. Gupta, are you there?
Yeah, Anderson, I'm in the northern district of Kuwait, Camp Iwo Jima. The Marines here have just confirmed for me the first Marine Expeditionary Force has confirmed that a Marine has been killed in action. They do not know they're not telling me at least exactly when it happened, obviously not divulging any further details of identification, but they are confirming now for the first time it appears that the first Marine has actually been killed in action. Anderson?
Sanjay, this of course follows the first casualties that we heard about in an accident, which was that chopper going down with 4 crewmen aboard, 8 British troops going aboard. But as you said, this is the first, and you said it's been confirmed to you, this would be the first casualty in action.
That is correct. They are drawing a distinction between the chopper accident that you were referring to and this particular incident, that one being an accident, helicopter accident is how they're referring to it. This one actually being a Marine KIA, killed in action, making a distinction between the two of those things. Again, this being confirmed by the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. They're also telling me right now in my ear that a full release will be expected later on. Obvious steps for the military at this point is to notify next of kin and those sorts of things, but they are releasing these details to me right now.
Well, obviously this is something I suppose inevitable, but which nevertheless hard to hear. Sanjay, as soon as you have any more information for us, please let us know. Obviously we will be following the story very closely in the coming minutes and hours.
Yeah, and we want to go back to Ryan Chilcote now. He's with the 101st. And Ryan, you were talking with one of the soldiers there, and explain to us what the troops will do with the 101st Airborne. They'll be ferried on helicopters and dropped onto the battlefield. Is that right?
Absolutely. The 101st Airborne specializes in air assault. The days when the airborne jump from planes into the battlefield, like for example into Normandy during World War II, are over, and ever since Vietnam pretty much it's been the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault in Perrins. What air assault means, it means moving helicopters into battle, moving troops into battle on helicopters. It also means using air assault using helicopters to project what they say, project combat power forward. In other words, putting Apache attack helicopters in front of infantry moving on the ground to take out targets in front of those infantry. There are a lot of those Apache attack helicopters in theater that belong to the 101st Aviation, particularly the Longbow variant of them. Very sophisticated gunships. They're piloted by just 2 pilots and cost about $25 million each. What they can do is they fly in groups. One of the helicopters can come up over the horizon, pick up as many as like 100 targets in just a few seconds, and then pass those targets off to the other helicopters. So they share information with one another, and it allows them to shoot on more targets even more quickly. Very lethal, very responsive helicopters. But the airborne, 101st Airborne, really, of course, is about its troops. And if I might continue, we're still here with PFC Frank Caruso in what he has described as a hasty, which is basically a foxhole that you put together quickly. We were talking about your suit. So how toasty is that?
It's pretty warm right now. You get in the shade, though, you're okay. But it's pretty thick. It's not like our regular DCUs that we wear. It's a lot thicker to keep away the chemicals from getting onto our body.
Yeah. And you got the word to put this on today. That was...
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. This is not your first time in in a conflict. You were in Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like that's prepared you for what you might have to do here, and how?
A lot. It's preparing me just by knowing what might go into a mission whenever we get the word to go into one, and it's just helped out mentally also. You feel more prepared after doing it once before. And coming back out in the desert now, you know what to expect with the desert too.
What do you think this is going to be like? You think this is going to be a cakewalk? You think this is going to be difficult? I mean, when you're sitting by yourself, say in one of these hasties, you obviously imagine what's ahead. What do you think it's going to be like?
I really have no idea what it's going to be like. There's just so many things that could happen. They could go through, you know, they can all give up or they can all decide to fight. It just depends. I mean, I have no idea what it's going to be like.
Does it make you nervous, or is it kind of a unknown that you're pretty comfortable with?
It's just kind of an unknown that I'm kind of comfortable with, actually.
Uh-huh.
You just accept it and deal with it when it comes time.
You got relatives back in the States?
Yes, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Want to say hello to them?
Yeah, say hi to my parents back in Nashville, Frank and Diane Caruso. I'll be home soon.
Okay, we've been speaking with Specialist Frank Caruso here in a hasty. It's basically a fighting position, a defensive fighting position that the soldiers of the 101st Airborne have put together hastily here in the assembly area in the Kuwaiti desert. Carol?
Ryan, I wanted to ask you one more thing. Beside you is a picture in southern Iraq where the 7th Cavalry is making their way towards Baghdad. Of course, they're clearing a way for those ground troops and for the 101st Airborne to be dropped into the battlefield. Can the soldiers see these pictures, and what are their feelings as they watch them?
I'm not sure that I could entirely hear your question. If you were asking if the soldiers know what's going on elsewhere on the battlefield, I have to tell you they know very little. I mean, we're hearing this. Well, actually, let's ask PFC Caruso. What do you know about what's going on?
I pretty much only know what's going on around me right now. Any information I get is from outside sources, which is still unreliable half the time. So
a lot of rumors, yeah?
A lot of rumors going around. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the vantage point here is from, quite literally, from the foxhole. The soldiers have very little idea of what's going on elsewhere. They do have radios with them. They do get information from their field commanders. A lot of that is, however, deemed by the field commanders to be pretty much unnecessary for the troops to hear about. They need to focus on the mission that's at hand.
Understand.
Wouldn't you say that's pretty much the case? I mean, do you want to know about what's going on everywhere?
It's good to know. Sometimes it's for morale purposes, stuff like that, but a lot of times it just keeps you oriented on what you're supposed to be doing, then it's good not to know also.
Well,
Ryan,
PFC Caruso. Carol?
Ryan, something else. The Iraqi information minister came out and said that that U.S. troops were targeting civilians. When U.S. troops hear things like that, what goes through their minds?
Let me share that with PFC Caruso. There's the Iraqi, apparently one of the Iraqi ministers is saying that U.S. troops are targeting civilians. I mean, we're not in, first of all, I should point out that we're not in Iraq. We're in the Kuwaiti desert. We're not
I understand that. I understand
the area of hostilities. But pretty, let me ask you what you think about that. Sounds pretty far-fetched.
Very far-fetched. We go over our rules of engagement all the time. We have ROE cards on us all the time, and we want to target civilians. I mean,
I've been pretty impressed by actually all the attention you guys and all the thought you guys put into that. I mean, can you explain to people how concerned you are about being in a situation where you could harm a civilian?
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't want to make, we're pretty much here. We want to help. We don't want to go in and make them hate America more. I mean, sometimes you get a feeling that's what a lot of Iraqis do is hate America. So I mean, we want to make sure that they know we're here to help and do what we have to do. We keep our ROE cards on us all the time to make sure, we have positive identification of a target to make sure it's not civilian.
Right. Okay. Carol?
All right, Ryan Chilcote reporting live from the Kuwaiti desert. Many thanks to you and to Frank, too. We appreciate his comments this morning. Of course, we're also taking a look at those pictures from southern Iraq, the 7th Cavalry making their way towards Baghdad. It's some 300 miles from where they began, so it's taking them a while. Those tanks and Humvees don't travel very fast across the desert sand.
And, just going back to Private First Class Caruso, I will in a second, but it's interesting to know. I mean, we pay so much attention to the technology and the machinery, and ultimately the strength of the U.S. fighting forces comes down to to men like Private First Class Caruso and women in choppers and flying aircraft, and it is up to them the outcome of all of this, and it is very comforting to hear firsthand from someone like Private First Class Caruso.
And he's so aware of the feelings of the Iraqi people. That really struck me too.
Yeah. Walt Rogers actually standing by in a Humvee, moving fast, moving furiously, as he said earlier. Walt, how's it going?
It's actually going very well. Even though you believe these tanks don't move quickly, they move faster than anything else on land over this desert. This is very rugged and rough terrain. We drove over a Wadi Dry riverbed, which almost shook the bottom out of our Humvee vehicle, but the tanks just rolled right through it. We know what the plan is. That is, the Army showed us the grid and the routes we'd be traveling, and I can tell you we are making good progress. We are more than on schedule. The U.S. 7th Cavalry is now reaching out, traveling in advance of the 3rd Infantry Division, which was around us a while back until we made a left turn, and now they're somewhat behind us. But they are coming on and coming on very, very hard. Again, we used the analogy earlier that what you're looking at is a wave of steel that's sweeping across the desert, and every hour that wave of steel grows in strength and momentum as more and more tanks, particularly from the 3rd Infantry Division, a heavy mechanized division, join this fight. That being the case, there is a huge wave of steel headed towards Baghdad.
Walt, it's Anderson Cooper in Atlanta. I got to ask you, this reminds me of that old Army commercial, we do more before 8 a.m. than most people do in a day. If that were ever true, you guys have been going all night with this. Many Americans are just waking up at this hour. It is 5:50 here on the East Coast. When do the troops, when do the members of the 7th Cavalry sleep? I mean, this has been going on all night long and many hours before the evening began.
You don't sleep. You really don't sleep out here. Of course, you're on an adrenaline high, but racing across the desert, you know that you're traveling toward the jaws of what could be a major military battle as the 7th Cavalry and the 3rd ID move towards Baghdad. That being the case, there's not going to be much sleep. The only nap I saw any of the soldiers get was during the refueling, as other tanks were in line ahead of them. They would lie inside the tank or on a flat portion of the tank. I want you to know that the preferred corner of the tank to sleep in is on the aft turret, because aft of the turret, on that back part over the engine, because in cool desert nights that stays warm for about 4 hours. Having said that, this is not a time for sleep. These are young men who know how to burn the candle at both ends. And they're burning it at both ends in this race toward Baghdad. Anderson?
And you are doing an excellent job of keeping up with them. Walter, I should just point out to our viewers, the video that you and your crew are shooting is on the right-hand side of our screen. The other video image on the left-hand side of the screen is being shot by Martin Savage's crew, also somewhere in southern Iraq. He is traveling with the U.S. Marine Corps. So just to inform our viewers, we're seeing two different images. The one of the Marine Corps traveling along a road. It does not look at quite as fast a rate of speed. Walter Rogers traveling. How fast do you think you're going, Walter?
We just slowed down now to about 20 miles an hour because we're coming up on what appears to be another wadi. But we have been traveling anywhere from 30 to 40 miles an hour, sometimes as low as 20 or 25, like when we go through soft sand as we're doing now. Some of the sand is very soft, and when we come to a wadi, which is the Arabic word for dry riverbed or for a riverbed, then there are huge boulders there. We have to travel more slowly. But these tanks move very, very quickly. I've seen them roll at over 54 miles an hour in these deserts full bore. But again, the problem, the difficulty with that is they outrace their supply train, which is following behind them, and they don't want to go too fast. The reason being, they have a set schedule. Everything is charted out on this like a graph, and they move through these grids on these maps. And every refueling point is marked out on the grid, on the map, almost every stop the same. Now the 7th Cavalry is coming up on a ridge which they can't see over. So you can see the tanks out in front of us pausing on top of the ridge because they're not certain what's on the other side at this point, and of course they don't want to go racing into an ambush. Again, not that much resistance from the Iraqi regular army was expected down here in southern Kuwait, but the closer these troops move to Baghdad, the more dangerous it will become. And there's no question, even though this may appear to have been a cakewalk for the first 15 hours or so of this march toward Baghdad, no one in the command structure believes this is going to be a cakewalk unless there's a regime change in Baghdad. If Saddam Hussein's regime were to collapse, then perhaps the Republican Guard units which guard the perimeter of the city might not put up a fight. But if the regime does not collapse, and if those Republican Guard units remain dug in around the perimeter of Baghdad, then the soldiers you're looking at now in their tanks are going to be looking at a very serious fight with some well-trained troops.
Walter, I don't know exactly, Walter, what you can say about this, but whatever you can would be helpful. How exactly does this work? I mean, you are moving fast. We see you're paused right here at this moment because you said unable to see what's over this ridge that you are approaching. Are there aircraft that are sort of clearing the way for you in terms of radar telling you what is ahead? Are there helicopters moving ahead of you, scouting out locations? And if you do encounter some sort of Iraqi presence, do you immediately come to a halt? How does it all work?
Well, presently we do not see aircraft overhead. The armored units which are out there are sufficient to probe forward. However, they rely on the eyes, which are the Kiowa helicopters, which usually are out over the horizon and patrolling about anywhere from 4 to 10 kilometers out. The Kiowa helicopters have been out there all day, although I confess I do not see them now, and I'm looking on about a 180 swing of the horizon. Normally those helicopters are flying a zone reconnaissance around to make sure that no Iraqi units try to outflank this armored force or, as I say, ambush them. I don't see the Kiowas now, although I expect they're probably out there. But we do not have the United States Air Force in the air above the 7th Cavalry at this point. They could be called on at any moment. They're in the area, but there's no need for them because this is still the southern no-fly zone, and the Iraqi Air Force is essentially grounded, and so there's no real air threat. The United States and its allies control the air over Iraq. That is an enormous advantage for the United States and gives these tanks great latitude of movement, which they would not enjoy on a battlefield if indeed there was a competitive air force. Anderson?
The Kiowa, which you referred to, are these scout helicopters moving ahead. How do they get refueled? I mean, they're traveling along with you. They are part of the 7th Cav. They get the same kind of fuel as you guys do, and do you carry that and they refuel with you? How does it work?
Well, that's the genius of the general who designed this operation and the modern army of the United States. Every vehicle you see out here on the battlefield, from the Humvee to the Bradley fighting vehicles to the MC-113s, the tanks, and the helicopters, all use the very same fuel. By the way, our camera is focusing over on a PSYOPs vehicle there. These are the psychological warfare folks in that vehicle with the speaker on top. If there were a call to the Iraqi civilian populace, if there was a mass surrender or something like that, those are the people who would be engaged in that. Yes, the Army does use a universal fuel for all its vehicles, which is very economical and very prudent, because it means you carry a limited number of fuel trucks. That is enough to fuel all the vehicles, but no more. You don't have to duplicate anything. Anderson?
Is it a concern when you are moving this fast? As you mentioned, the forces of the 7th Cavalry very spread out, obviously for a very understandable tactical reasons. Is communication a problem? Obviously, you have some sort of communication system between you, but is there a concern over communication security, about talking too much on the wires, on the radios? Tell us what you can.
Well, not every vehicle has a radio out there. Some do, some don't. Some of the ones you look at obviously do because you can see the aerials out there. But not every vehicle has a radio, and it's very interesting how the embed communication is handled. We are essentially given a tank or a vehicle, for example, the Air Force TAC armored vehicle to follow or to stay close to. We worked all of this out in the practices before the embed or before the operation commenced. The embed gave us plenty of opportunity to know the people we were working with. This was very important because what we did was build the confidence of the U.S. 3rd Squadron 7th Cavalry. They got to know us. They knew we were not reckless. They knew we understood the military culture where there's a chain of command and a set of rules. And when they understood we understood their culture, their rules, the embed has worked extraordinarily harmoniously. And we really don't need a radio. If there's a change in the maneuver, a change in direction, they may sometimes come over and tell us. Or if we're down, everybody's down, someone will drive up in a Humvee and say we're leaving in 5 minutes. But other than that, we're without radio contact with them, but we are with it line of sight.
All right, Walter, we got to end it there. Thanks for joining us. We'll check in with you shortly. Walter Rogers reporting with 2 other members of the CNN team, as he has been really throughout much of the early morning, late night hours.
We've been very selfish with Walter. CNN International wants him now, so we've got to let him go to give his report to the world.
But unprecedented pictures, really never seen something like that before with the technology that we have now. Just extraordinary pictures. The 7th Cavalry moving rapidly through the deserts of Iraq. Their target, quite simply, Baghdad.
And of course, the Marines also on the move somewhere in southern Iraq.
Right, those pictures from Martin Savage.
Yeah.
So just trying to pull all the pieces of the puzzle together and bring you right to the front lines right here at CNN.
It is exactly 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Shall we start our next hour right now? Word within the past few minutes of the first American combat fatality. A U.S. Marine was killed in action. We are still awaiting precise details about where it happened. His identity will be released pending notification of his family. Kuwaiti's defense ministry says one of its Patriot missiles intercepted an incoming Iraqi missile in northwestern Kuwait about an hour ago. This is animation of how a Patriot works. You see it there. Air raid sirens had sounded in Kuwait City, signaling the possibility of an attack. An all-clear signal was given about 10 minutes later. We want to go to the House of Commons now, where Jeffrey Hoon is speaking. Let's listen in.
To the families of those killed. I hope the House will understand why we will not issue further details until next of kin have been informed. That helicopter was engaged in an operation led by 3 Commando Brigade on the Al-Faw Peninsula in southeastern Iraq. This began with an assault on the southern tip of the peninsula using support helicopters from Kuwait and from the Amphibious Task Group in the North Arabian Gulf. The tip of the peninsula was secured as planned by 40 Commando Royal Marines and without damage to the oil infrastructure, averting any attempt by the regime to cause an environmental disaster in the Gulf. Some resistance, including the use of mortars and artillery, has been encountered, and there was a small-scale engagement with individual Iraqi troops, resulting in 4 known Iraqi fatalities. Importantly, most of the oil infrastructure on the peninsula has been secured intact. I can confirm, however, reports that the Iraqi regime has set fire to a number of oil wells. Our latest information is that up to 30 oil wells are alight, amongst hundreds in southern Iraq. The primary aim of our current operations is to prevent further opportunities for such deliberate destruction and to enable remedial action to be taken as soon as is practical. The security of Iraq's oil infrastructure will, of course, be a key factor in enabling the Iraqi people to rebuild their country. At 04:30 hours this morning, coalition ground forces, including elements under the command of 3 Commando Brigade, commenced an operation to seize the port of Qasr and a nearby naval base. In addition, this morning, 4-2 Commando were deployed by British aircraft to a blocking position north of Al-Faw. Throughout this operation, Royal Navy ships, including HMS Chatham and Marlborough, provided naval gunfire support to 3 Commando Brigade. Qasr, which is roughly equivalent in size to Southampton, will be vital to the economic future of southern Iraq. Royal Navy mine countermeasures vessels are on standby to conduct mine clearance operations to provide a secure shipping route into the port and allow an inflow of humanitarian supplies. Although action is continuing, we expect Qasr to be fully under coalition control shortly. In addition to the Al-4 operation, coalition land operations across the Kuwaiti-Iraq border are well underway. Preparatory action began yesterday afternoon using fixed-wing and rotary air forces and artillery. At 17:15 hours yesterday, the 5th US Regimental Combat Team launched operations to secure the South Ramallah oil field and gas and oil platforms in southern Iraq. At 0300 hours this morning, the main land offensive began, with coalition forces advancing across the Kuwaiti-Iraq border. The two battle groups of 7th Armoured Brigade are providing flank protection as part of this assault. We understand that stiff resistance has been encountered and that 7th Armoured Brigade has engaged in contact with Iraqi forces. Turning now to air operations, at 1800 hours yesterday, 50 Tomahawk land attack missiles were launched at regime targets in Baghdad, closely associated with Saddam Hussein. A number of the missiles were launched from Royal Navy submarines, and we believe all hit their regime targets. A large number of RAF aircraft, including combat and support aircraft, have been active during the past 24 hours, including Tornado GR4s using enhanced Paveway 2 precision munitions. I'm now able to give further details on yesterday's attacks by Iraqi forces. Between 07:20 and 15:10 yesterday, Iraq launched at least 5 missiles of various types into Kuwait in the vicinity of coalition forces. 3 landed and 2 were intercepted by Patriot missiles. There were fortunately no injuries. Troops did, however, put on their NBC equipment as a precautionary measure. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is now less than 24 hours since these operations were launched. They are making steady progress. Our objectives remain as set out in the document placed in the Library of the House yesterday. They are to remove the Iraqi regime and its weapons of mass destruction. We have no quarrel with the Iraqi people and will continue to take every precaution to reduce the risk of civilian casualties. But as the helicopter crash has demonstrated, our own people are always at risk in a military operation. I pay tribute to the courage of those who tragically lost their lives last night. Our thoughts are with their families, and we hope for the safe return of all their colleagues.
Bernard Jenkin.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to the Secretary of State for his statement and for keeping the House so fully informed and for giving me a sight of his statement in advance. And of course, the news of casualties this morning is the news we all feared most, but is inevitable in any such conflict. Of course, there will be an inquiry that follows such an accident, but I'd be grateful if the Secretary of State could...
You've been listening to dropping in on the British House of Commons, where the Defence Secretary, Geoffrey Hoon, making a statement. This, of course, in the wake of the loss of 8 British lives in a accidental helicopter crash. We believe at this point it was an accident. No reports of enemy fire involved. 8 British troops, 4 American airmen lost their lives in that. The first reported casualties in this conflict. Just about an hour ago, Dr. Sanjay Gupta informed us that a U.S. Marine has been killed in action. That the first report that we are aware of a loss of a U.S. life in combat thus far. And you're seeing it there at the bottom of the screen. The Marines do in fact confirm the first Marine has been killed in action. A sad way to begin today. We have some apparently some new developments happening in northern Iraq, and for that we go to Jane Araf in northern Iraq. Jane?
Well, Anderson, following Turkish Parliament's decision to allow U.S. overflights over Turkey, more American personnel are expected here. Now, a select number of U.S. Special Forces have been operating in northern Iraq for some time, but using the Turkish airspace would allow the U.S. to airlift troops into northern Iraq for a very limited northern assault on Iraqi forces. Now, it also means, though, that Parliament decision that Turkish forces themselves may be entering, and Kurdish officials here are saying they still oppose that, and there could be trouble ahead. Now, it's a holiday here today, the first day of spring, and a major holiday called Nowruz, but this town is deserted. This is a major city in northern Iraq, but everyone has headed for the mountains and the countryside. They say they're afraid there could be a chemical attack, and no matter how much officials tell them to go home, that it's safe, they're not heeding that call. Anderson?
Jane, someone was talking in my ear, so I might not have heard in the beginning of your report. If I'm asking you to repeat yourself, I apologize. How soon is it expected that U.S. aircraft might be able to use Turkish airspace and possibly U.S. troops may be coming through?
Well, that decision last night gave them immediate access virtually, so they could be coming in at any time. There's a large airfield near the Turkish border, and it's been used by Turkish troops, actually. Turkish troops have been in northern Iraq fighting Kurdish separatists for about 10 years. But what they would be doing is airlifting troops into that and possibly other airfields, and that could happen any time. Now, the fact that the Turkish parliament would not allow the United States to use the bases for ground troops is a major blow to the war plans, but officials still say they can launch a limited assault using the airspace. Anderson?
All right, Jane Arraf, thanks very much. Just some programming notes for viewers at home. King Abdullah of Jordan is set to address his people at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. CNN will bring that to you. That, of course, we also have that earlier report that at, I believe it was 7 a.m., we expect Jacques Chirac, French president, to speak. Hope to bring that to you. And then at 7:30, Tony Blair, British Prime Minister, will be speaking. We're going to hope to bring that to you as well. Let's check in right now. There has been activity this morning in Baghdad. CNN, the only U.S. Media outlet which has a representative still in Baghdad. CNN's Nick Robertson standing by. Nick, what's the latest?
Anderson, swift reaction from Iraqi officials this morning to those images people have seen of Iraqi soldiers surrendering and pictures of armored columns of coalition forces inside Iraq. Information Minister Mohammed Al-Sahaf saying that none of these soldiers that are seen there surrendering are Iraqi soldiers. Indeed, he implied that it was some kind of play. Who were these people, he said, well, and where were they? Would be some sort of investigation into that, and we would know more about it in the future, he said. He also talked about the armored columns and said, well, where is this desert? Which desert are they in? An indication there trying to portray the fact that these columns are perhaps not in Iraq, that they might be somewhere else. Of course, this news broadcast being carried on Iraqi television, being replayed actually right now on Iraq's main television channel. Iraq's viewers able to see their the Interior Minister along with the Information Minister in a flak jacket wielding an automatic weapon. The pictures behind the two ministers are pictures of injured Iraqi civilians. This part of this press conference designed to put the focus on those civilians that Iraqi officials say have been injured. And according to Iraqi officials, they say some 36 civilians have been injured in and around the Baghdad area. Very interesting as well to listen to the Information Minister. Not only was he calling President Bush and Prime Minister Tony Blair a gang of villains, gamblers who are gambling on their losses, their dreams of success growing even bigger, he said, with each of their losses. But perhaps the most significant thing here, classifying the coalition forces as war criminals and as mercenaries. He did not say this, but an indication here when he talked about they would decide what to do about them legally, an indication the government perhaps giving some consideration whether or not, because according to Iraq, they are not operating under international law, whether or not they could be treated under the Geneva Convention, and a very interesting development here. Also, much rhetoric about unity, about fighting on. The Interior Minister saying he carried a weapon, his 12-year-old son carries a weapon, that they would carry on and fight for President Saddam Hussein. So really we're seeing the propaganda war here escalating again. We saw it yesterday, we saw it the day before. Iraqi officials coming out to deny the pictures and stories that the international audience around the world are seeing. Of course, no one in Baghdad able to see those pictures yet of troops surrendering and of the armored columns moving through the deserts of Iraq. Anderson?
Well, Nick, I noticed that the Information Minister saying, where are these columns of troops? I'm sure there are, it's understandable why they might like to know where these columns of troops are. Obviously, that is not information they will